Good day to you all, and thanks for joining us for the Business Mentoring Series, Session 3, Super September, our lunch break series there, brought to you by the Phillips Brothers Foundation and Anthony and Andrew Phillips, Stefan Kazakis, the Business Benchmark Group, Judd Murray from the Cognizance Foundation, and Rob and Nikki, who are helping us there behind the scenes. So welcome if you haven't joined us before. Hopefully you've gained a bit out of the first two sessions there. They're all recorded, so you can access those through the Business Benchmark Group or on the Phillips Coaching websites if you want to catch up with the sequence of sessions we're putting together, which are all following in a pattern to give you as much information about some successful businesses that we've been involved with and some of the processes that we've followed along the way, to give you some great tools and mechanics to run your own business, whatever stage that is at the moment. And the most important thing, to look after yourself and those around you to make sure you're in your best shape to really drive your business to succeed. So looking forward to a great show today. And the theme is building capacity. And remember, the chat's always open there. So please, as we go, and we've got well over 100 people now on board doing this, just if we can answer some of your chat as we go, we will in a written form. And some of the key questions we'll hold for the last 5 or 6 minutes to share with the panel there for who's most relevant to answer that. So big warm welcome again. And I suppose when we talk about building capacity, I just reflect back to our building our business. And, we had really no business degrees, but we had a lot of sport background and elite sport. So our coaches, the David Parkins of the world and the Kevin Sheedys of the world, Andrew and I were lucky enough to work under and with, and Alex Jezelenko and Robert Walls and the like. You learn a lot about, building your own capacity and what it was to build the capacity of a team. And, a lot of that is coping with growth. As you get talent in and you've got a great product, it is actually, how you actually cope with building that. And then not letting it get out of control, actually keeping the right measures and controls. And I know Andrew will talk about this, but our chairman, our father of our business always said, monitor, keep the controls on. Doesn't matter if it's expanding, getting bigger. Make sure you got your measurements there and you check in all the time. So really big part of building that capacity. Also, it's about fulfilling your vision and your BHAG, which Andrew talked about last week. That real big goal, that stretch goal you put out there. And it's, you've got to get all the cogs in the right spots. And we used that reference of the bus, having the right type of bus, heading it in the right direction, having the right people on the bus, having them in the right seats, the right positions, sometimes getting rid of some old minds and ways of going and bringing in some new recruits, like any sporting team. And you can really shape up to build that capacity. It's then empowering the leaders, making sure those leaders of all your sections, from the board down to all those sections of finance and operations, human resources, marketing, sales, logistics, etc., that they really share those goals. And they send them down to their teams and out to the field where your product or service is being delivered. So we're really big on empowerment. So you can build this capacity, but to us, it's all about empowering the right people. You get that team really empowered, everyone knowing their job, doing it well. You can really start to cope with that growth and set it up for whatever you want to do, which will be our following sessions about setting up to sell or exit yourself or merging it, joint ventures into bigger companies. I'm sure we'll cover that in the next couple of sessions. So without further ado, it's building also right at the last 3 feet, as we mentioned last week. Make sure you really know what you're doing, between you and your customers, because that's still the interaction that's most important. They will be your advocates. They will sell your product if we get that interaction right. So a big warm welcome again. And we're going to start off with Andrew, who's going to take us in on his section today, which will be rapid growth to value adding. Stefan's going to cover a bit on wealth creation, the leverage, cycles of business and execution. And Judd is going to really focus in on personal collective capacity for performance. So have a great session. Over to you, Andrew.
Very warm welcome, everybody. Thank you for that great introduction, Anthony, and to the other guests. As Anthony mentioned, these sessions are live and it's just fantastic. The live streaming, they're also recorded. I've had many questions about those recordings, so we'll continue to give you those updates. And thanks for all those who've commented on my growth. Yes, it's going very well. Enjoying the September warm weather. Thanks, Fitzy, who's logging on today for the first time. Anthony and I talk about family in our business. Even though we were family and shareholders, one of the strongest parts of it to say to everybody every time they represented us, it was a family business. We're really appreciative of the family support that we received in the last week. So thank you to all those people connected with us in the family for your good wishes. Look, today we are talking about value add capacity building, but because we are building each week, I'm also going to be doing quick summaries of the first weeks. So I'll just go back to the start. We're talking about startup, rapid growth, value add and exit. And as I mentioned last week, within those 15 minutes that we get allocated, it's very difficult. So we'd love to talk to you further outside of this in any way we can help any of the presenters here. It does remind me, Anthony, of a couple of famous quotes from Parko back in the day. Now, you people all remember his big jugular in the vein coming out of his coaching, but I'll never forget 2 points that he made very clearly. For out of 10, you get 9 kicks in the bum and 1 lick of the ice cream. So, in business, it's the same. Sometimes it feels like a massive bowl of spaghetti and you just can't get through it. But believe me, every 1% forward every day is something putting that 1 foot forward. You will be making progress. So 9 kicks in the arse and 1 lick of the ice cream. Remember that. But do enjoy that lick when you get it because they do come. The other one he said, which I think is very relevant, Fraser Brown's dad, who was a very successful businessman, when you think you've made it, you're actually on the way down. So you could never rest easy. Even if you had a spot in the senior team, you could never rest easy as if you were going to be there forever. Same in business. If you think you've made it, you're on top, you watch the competitors come after you and they'll cut you down to pieces very quickly. So very important to follow through those 4 stages. Sometimes we're not acutely aware that we're moving out of startup into growth and into value add. Sometimes businesses are very quick to make those transitions. For us, it was over a 30-year period. And thank you for all the newcomers coming today. We've got some people from London, from Vancouver. So again, extension to the family. We're just wrapped to be able to help you in this capacity. So as I mentioned, into value add, startup, rapid growth and value add. So a quick summary of startup with your passion and values. Why are you doing what you're doing? What are your values? For us, professional, ethical, respectful and grateful underpinned everything we did. Is it a need or a want? Best to be in a need product. Go hard. Startup, just get going. Don't wait, don't think, just do, the old John Kennedy saying. Find great people on the journey, particularly mentors and advisors. Build systems and make sure you wash your cash. Cash is king. Keep it simple and it's about execution. Yes, we can sit around talking, but mainly execute. And last week we talked about rapid growth, sometimes feeling like you're a Ferrari with no pit stop. Stay personally and sales focused. As Anthony mentioned, create those raving fans. You won't know what they're doing talking out in the marketplace about you. So do care about everything. Everything you do for that customer will turn them into a raving fan and you won't have to go and sell yourself. The business will sell for it. Thank you, competitors, every day. I think it's a saying I found hard at the start to get used to, but it does drive you forward. We talked about the jam last week. For those who missed the story, it's not about the jam, but it is how much you care. So make sure you're building that goodwill with your customer and the values and watch the last 3 feet. Our chairman relayed some stories this week about his business career and the rapid change. And if you did not watch that operational level for 3 feet, things could slip away quickly. And of course, the most empowering part of last week, the Rockefeller habits. Set your 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal, that aspirational goal. Choose your top 5 problems. Choose your top 1 of 5. Spend 90 days trying to fix it. Our CEO used to say we've got 168 hours every week to get things done. I know we don't talk about working, and Judd will talk about this in his next session 24/7 nowadays, but in those early phases, you've got to get runs on the board and use that data alignment and rhythm to get your team moving forward, and dream and believe the only way is up. So now moving to the next stage of business career, value add. So we've got a startup where we pretty much taking on everything. We've got a scattergram of business services we might be offering. And then we've moved into rapid growth. We've found out what works and we've focused heavily on that one product. And today, what I want to talk about is value add. Finding out with those profitable product, how can we increase our margins and work to make sure profitability is increasing. So on the left-hand side of this next slide, you'll see profitability, pretty simple. In the very first session, I talked about Dick Pratt. Income minus expense equals profit, pretty basic. But here what I'm talking about is we've got to continue to increase good profitable sales where our margins are increasing, and find the low-hanging fruit where we can decrease costs. Looking at our sales funnel, is it strong? How long does it take for a sale to come on in the business? How many sales are you juggling at one time? You've got to have a number of things on the go for when they fall. It's no good having all your eggs in one basket and taking months and months for that sale to come across. Try to get as many leads as you can. Operational cost control. As I mentioned, the low-hanging fruit. Where's the fat in the business? Can you identify these costs and strip them out with no effect on the culture or the value or on the capacity to give the customer what they need? And finally, on the financial reporting, this is a next level up with a qualified CFO, which I'm going to talk about next. What's the next level up of management ratios? Sure, we need to know the general financial statistics of the business, cash, profit, but build your own management reporting that is critical to your particular business. And I wanted to give you some examples of Camp Australia. Well, actually, this one's not so much, but I came back from my honeymoon. Our CEO rang me and I was two weeks into a 4-week trip in Italy, and I actually came back from our honeymoon, and that's how much we cared about our business, because we didn't know what cash was in our bank and we were rapidly losing schools and cash. So it was a really important lesson for me. What is the cash in your bank account every morning and every night? Do you actually know that? Do you know for about 15 years I didn't know that until I went and did my financial management for non-financial manager course and realised the power of cash in your business. Another important statistic for us was we're a human resource business. So what was our wage to revenue percentage? As an example, we had a wage bill of probably $15 to $20 million in the end, but we were at about 53%. Our wage bill to revenue was at about 53%. We had a target to get it down to 49%. So we had to move that ratio 4%. And believe me, there were many, many projects within that to move it even 1%. Online timesheet, rostering systems, you name it. We had to work a lot of IT transformative programs in order to get those ratios down. But every percent meant millions of dollars of profit. Another example, people just didn't pay us. They weren't on direct debit. So we had a goal to set our percentage of parents on direct debit, which would eliminate our write-off, bad debt. We wanted an 80% ratio of parents on direct debit. At the stage we started, it was 53%, 55%. Would you believe we got it up to 75, 80, 85 in the last years, which underpinned our cash flow and our profitability every week. And lastly, we were in schools. So we wanted to know what was the percentage ratio of every school we had of children using our service. So what was our occupancy rate? It was sitting about 9%, and we wanted to lift it to 12% of the students in the school using our service. And then the frequency. How often did the children come? Again, we had to tweak those by 1 or 2%. As an example, we had a frequency ratio of 10 sessions available every week of about 2. 2 out of 10 was our average. But when we looked at 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3 out of 10, the difference in profitability for no extra cost was absolute paramount to underpinning our growth and profitability. So for us, these management reporting tools were critical. And we viewed them with our senior leader management team every week in our 90-day goal sessions. So profitability, positive sales, look at your margins and decrease costs where you can. My father used to always say, it's an investment, not a cost. You are now going to be at a stage in value adding where it's got to have some significant investment. Don't be scared of investment. Early stages in startup and in rapid growth, you're trying to be tight on all costs. I get it. But this is the stage to invest significantly in your business. We had about a $1 million, and I used to think it was a lost sunken cost until I was told, no, you've got to look at this as an investment. Before we got our transformative IT systems right, and if Andrew Connolly's watching today, he'll know the value that this created for our exit when we were finally bought. The value in transformative IT systems that underpin every part of your business, human resources, finance, operations, you name it. We had to do that. And for us, we spent $1 million before we actually got it right. So invest significantly in IT, invest heavily in brilliant people and pay them really well. If you don't pay these people well, they'll go elsewhere and be paid well. So don't skimp on senior leader management. Get people to help you and make sure you're bringing the best people possible into your business. Yes, look at the rates of pay out there for CEOs, CFOs, COOs, senior leaders in each of the divisions. Pay well, pay above the odds. Invest in training. Invest in underpinning HR systems and operational training. Get the framework of your business right so it is sustainable and scalable. Invest in your overhead. It's not linear. It does go up like stepping stones, going up, climbing steps. You'll be making a lot of profit at one stage, and then you might be on the verge of milking your business and your brand where you're running thin. That's the time to significantly invest in people and systems again. Sure, profit takes a hit, but it builds like a hockey stick. And sometimes where you might take a profit dip, believe me, there's a sharp incline over time with profitability if you continue to invest properly into your business. One famous saying, my father as chairman says, you need a shit hot finance guy in your right hand pocket. Believe me, at this stage of your business in value add, get your finance team spot on, get it right, get your ratios and hover over those numbers every day and every week. They drive operational movement in your business. Numbers mean everything. Anthony and I got to a point where we recognized that we needed to move on as being CEOs of our business, but we didn't get it right to start with. We had 5 different appointments. Now I look back at it as being the most important parts. They weren't failures. We knew what we needed to do. We knew what we needed to have as our outcomes until we got it right. And it was gold when we got it right. We also invested in COO and CFO. So when you know you've got to get those senior lead appointments made, go for it. Find best of practice out in the field and go for it. External accountants. We also wanted to make sure our business was seen and had credibility and audits. So PwC was building financial hygiene into our business. An external legal structure, making sure you're protecting your business wealth. Today, for my last slide, and value add is going to be over 2 sessions, I wanted to talk briefly about some real value drivers. No shortcuts. We've talked about that just now. Systemize, McDonaldize your business. For us, we were in schools. We started at 1. By the time we set our BHAG, we were at 200 with a target of 1,000. And we finished just short of that at about 800 schools. But we wanted to make sure we could reproduce the exact same service everywhere, every state, no matter if it was 2 minutes down the corner or in the back of Toowoomba up in Queensland. Everything needs to be McDonaldized. Build 2-down management hierarchy to protect your IP. What I mean by that is if we've got a national sales operations manager, it's no good her just having her state sales managers, state operation managers knowing. You've got to go down to the regional manager level, because if you lose one person in between, you've got a massive IP gap. So 2-down management system, think about that in your business. Eliminate operative drift. Commit to your Rockefeller habits. Commit to your data, your alignment, and your rhythm every week. Don't drift. Our CEOs to drum that into us. Once you've got operational drift, everything falls away. Do not use your business as an ATM, as a business owner. Remove those attitudes. Bring financial hygiene. What I mean by that, it's no longer, you've got to put your shareholder hat on and your employee hat on. No good just using cash out of the business anytime you want. Make sure those financial hygienes are set, because when you're going to be looked at by external parties, you want your financial hygiene management to be correct. I can expand a little bit further on that as we go in coming weeks. Secure long-term recurring contracts if you can. Our business was lucky enough to have recurring contracts. They are what adds significant value when somebody comes to look at you. One of our board members used to say when he looked at any business he wanted to buy, I've got to prove the revenue. If I can't prove the revenue, then the business is worth nothing. How do you prove the revenue? By recurring long-term contracts. We want a balance now of sales and profitability. So I'm now asking you to move to managing for profit, not market share. Sure, rapid growth, grab everything, but now your sales and those contracts need to be making the appropriate profits. For us, it was moving out of zero EBIT up to a 10% goal. And you should be looking at every dollar of profit, not just as $1, but as a multiple of $1. So 5 or 10 times ratios, because when your business is looking to exit, that's the sorts of ratios people are going to be looking at. So every dollar is significantly valuable. And last point for me today, I want you to think about investing in your senior leader management team. Open up your books, share, be honest and be truthful at EBIT level, and build bonus schemes in B-class share structures. You don't have to sell down percentage shareholding, but I used to always say to our team, our family business is about helping them get their kids through education, pay off their mortgages. So if you're a business owner and you're building a senior management team and you think you want to hide and share all the information, people will leave. Open up, share, and be honest with your business. Thank you very much today to listen to the value add. Next week, I'll extend on this point before we're into exit. Over to you, Stefan. Thank you.
So if you can stop sharing the screen, Andrew. Yeah, well done, Andrew. Really some poignant points as it relates to the journey you and Anthony and the family business was on. Very impressive, actually. So at Business Benchmark Group, we always ask our clients, and we work with small, medium businesses between $1 million and $20 million is probably takes care of 80% of our client base. We work with about 150 different organisations throughout the world, and predominantly in that trade and construction industry, although professional and personal services is a running second and third as it relates to the industries we work with. There is always a very important question that must be answered at the start of any journey we take a business owner on. And typically, very important to note, operators get tired and owners get rich. What I mean by that is, as an owner, as a leader, as an influencer in your business, if you don't sort of optimize delegation, if you don't optimize elimination, if you don't optimize for automation, as we just heard just there with Andrew and his sharing as it relates to systems and IT and where the valuation as it relates to Camp Australia went XXX as it related to investment back in the business. So the question that must always be answered is, do you want to be big or do you want to be rich? And you only get to choose one. So the moment you answer that question, and it's a really good opportunity for everyone to just take a mental note on, do you want to be big as it relates to your business, or do you want to be rich? Once you answer that question, then the second question that must be answered is, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? So as a leader, as an influencer, as a driver for something that may outgrow you, outlast you, and outperform you as the individual, it is so important to be open-minded about the opportunity that you are creating. And if you look at it as a reference to a book, you as the initial leader, owner, or investor in the business are the first chapter of a book. And the book goes on to be a 100-year story, a 100-year journey for which you participated in the first 10, 15, 20 years, perhaps 5 years. In saying that, it must always be underpinned by what is the life that you are optimizing for? What is the true purpose? Classic Simon Sinek, if I can sort of reference that in modern times, as it relates to what is your why? What is your compelling reason for doing what you do? And do you have a chapter in your business plan or a section in your business plan called life? So I'm going to share with you something that was shared with me many, many years ago when I went on the first journey of business and running a business and growing a business and having all the learnings and the continued learnings never stop. But this is the three-legged stool called wealth creation. So this is three-legged stool that's called wealth creation. And there is nothing, absolutely zero, compared to the first leg of the stool called business as it relates to creating cash flow. Cash. There is nothing as it relates to business being the first leg of the stool that gives you the opportunity to create cash flow. As you optimize for structure and leverage, and ultimately have optics and scoreboards and scorecards that confirm you are on the right track, what you do with free cash or free cash flow, otherwise known as profit, is you are building now an opportunity to put that into property, typically is what we do. And the reason why we do property first is because we still don't have our time right, but we're getting our money a little further advanced. And this is all about leverage in finance. The ability to build a business, grow a business that affords you a journey, affords your team a journey, allows you to make free cash flow to put it into property because you don't have your time right yet, because that is the next part of leverage that you need to be working on. But you definitely have free cash flow, so property, because you get a property manager looking after that, and therefore you are growing, I guess, wealth as it relates to assets in property. And then the third leg of the stool, and ultimately it happens in the third stage of business, is you are selling what I would call paper. So people buy your IP, they buy your intellect, they buy your ability to have created something that is predictable for cash. You are also now investing because you've got more time and more money into the share market. You're building franchising, you're licensing. So that is the third leg of wealth creation. But ultimately, there is nothing like business. There is absolutely zero compared to the other two legs of the stool, other than business that creates cash at a level that, as Andrew just shared, is a multiple that cannot be compared. As it relates to property, you build wealth through, I guess, asset growth. What I'm going to share with you now is the three key disciplines of leverage. And the three disciplines of leverage start with OPT. One of the keys to mastery in business is really optimizing other people's time, building people around you that are going to be better than you. Other people's time as your business grows, and you are delegating and you're eliminating from hours on your plate as you move more and more and more towards business ownership, business direction, business pivoting. You are now paying other people's time to focus on the sales, focus on the marketing, focus on the operation, focus on the finance. And ultimately, these people need to be better than you in each one of those areas. When it's all done and dusted, other people's time as it relates to organizational charts, as it relates to your progressional growth in business, whether you go from 1 million to 2 million, 2 million to 5 million, and 5 million to 20 million, and thereafter is the next stage of business, you are now building a structure. You're optimizing structure and leverage, and you are moving away from being the operator and the manager to being the true owner and investor. And ultimately, you bring what is otherwise known as a CEO to look after your structure, your function areas, and your direct reports as you keep on letting go of what you do. So other people's time is a key discipline of building capacity for you as a leader, for building capacity for the business that you ultimately started as a great idea, and now it's continuing to flourish without you needing to be everything to everyone, and therefore your time is leveraged because you've got other people doing time better than you. Other people's money is a critical driver for leverage and business success. Your ability to build discipline, build momentum, build a track record. Bank managers do not lend to a business. Bank managers lend to managers. Bank managers lend to management teams. They lend to business owners and business leaders and business leadership groups that have a track record. The better you build momentum as it relates to your ability to manage money, the more money you have at your disposal as it relates to leverage. And the classic example here is your 30 cents in the future is, I guess, subsidized with the bank or a financial institution or a client or a supplier's extension of credit, because you are building a reputation that you can manage money. So OPM is the second discipline of leverage, and ultimately it is the fastest accelerator to 1 + 1 = 5, 7, and 9. So other people's money, but it's all back on your reputation to be a good money manager. Track record. It's a famous line that was created on the racetrack as it relates to form and momentum. Other people's money is a critical driver for success. And the last and not least, discipline as it relates to leverage is OPN, other people's network. When you think about the Super September series right now, when you think about, we have over 70 or 80 on this call, and over the series we have over 120, 130 participants. It is about other people's networks, everyone coming together and sharing and growing and learning. But your ability to arrive as a business leader or a business owner, a person with integrity and ethics, your moral code is protected and defended every single time, is your ability to take a seat on the table as it relates to people introducing you to people and businesses, which is otherwise known as other people's network. One of the fastest way to grow momentum is to be at this privileged place of other people's network, where people trust you to add value to a table and not be a turkey. The ownership journey. So when we think about the ownership journey and we think about leverage and building capacity, owners and leaders invest in their team. And so often the team is who's looking after the customer. So if you think about this, an trained or a dysfunctional or a misaligned team, what sort of service or product delivery do you think they're treating this very important component of a business? So your responsibility as the leader is to continuously be investing in your team. Makes no difference the size of your team, and how is it that the team delivers exceptional and benchmark service and product delivery for which the customer keeps on coming back and doing more business, bringing more referrals, being advocates and community selling proposition to the business, which then delivers profit back to the owner and or the business for it to be reinvesting. If you look at this in a different way, how is it that the owner and the leader ultimately becomes the investor? This is a journey. And the investor is building leaders. And the leaders are building advocates. And how is it that the advocates ensure that the speed of repeat and referral ensure that this business goes on to create wealth and duplication? And then ultimately that comes back this way. So this is the ultimate capacity builder in business, the ultimate ability to understand, where am I? Where do I need to be? What am I optimizing? What is it as it relates to my life, my personal ambition, my personal, giving back, my personal, ambition and dreams for life? Do you have a compelling reason to work and be diligent about the structures in your business that definitely include people? People and process is the ultimate ticket as it relates to leverage. People and process is the ultimate green card to a thing called leverage. You cannot grow leverage. You cannot grow a business without other people's time. you are definitely going to be slowed down if you're not building momentum and disciplines of understanding the scoreboard. The language of business is finance. The language of business is numbers. Everything you do in your business will end up being a number somewhere on a scoreboard. The most important scoreboard you want to be looking at and understanding and not scratching your head as if it's space cadet time is the balance sheet. The balance sheet will tell you the brutal truth as it relates to your working capital and your equity momentum. The importance of knowing how much is the cash movement month in, month out, quarter in, quarter out, and optimizing for every dollar earned is delivering a better result in gross margin, is your ability to be building a business that's going to definitely outlast, outperform, and most importantly, outplay you. And that is an awesome opportunity to be in on that privileged journey and bring it. So your capacity as a leader, your capacity to be thinking about what am I optimizing, what am I elevating, what am I striving for, and you don't need to do it in breakneck speed. Business is a journey. Business is a when I think about all my problems today, every one of them started out as a great idea. When I think about, there is not a day, I mean, literally, I was in Austin, Texas this morning till 8 o'clock. I started a meeting with my mentor at 11 p.m. last night. I finished at 8 o'clock this morning, and here I am because I'm committed to this cause. I'm committed to the sharing and the giving and whatever it takes to add value. In saying that, though, I'm also committed to something called life and where it is that my journey takes me. So I am more than happy to be continuously squeezing, but I'm also very, very cautious and very curious about, is that juice that I'm squeezing worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Where is it that your structure and or your leverage points need a recheck, a reconnect, a reassess? Where is it that you and or your leadership team or your future leadership team could be striving for 1 + 1 = 3? The ultimate level of synergy and leverage is in other people's time, other people's money, and other people's network. However, if you're a lousy leader, if you're a leader that doesn't have ambition, or you have uncertainty, fear, and doubt being your driver, that's going to be your handbrake. It's going to be what holds you back, and ultimately, it could be the reason why you don't have the quality of life that you ultimately do deserve, and the journey gets impacted on that step. So, planning is the miracle. The plan is the outcome of planning. A plan needs to be executed. Execution needs to be measured. Measurement has an opportunity to be corrected or realigned, but you never change the plan. You always move a few levers as it relates to execution. So become measurement fanatics in everything you do, and you watch the leverage in your business as you go on the cycle of business and building capacity go through the roof. So that's my sharing today. I hope you get something out of that. And optimize for leverage and minimize brain damage. Over to you, Judd.
Thank you, Stefan. That was fantastic, buddy. Appreciate that. And the work that you did too, Andrew and Ed. Today, I want to talk to you and extend this conversation into your own personal health. I want to really speak about your well-being. I'm going to share my screen. And we'll work through. So today we're going to talk about the business of well-being. We're going to talk about, how to take care of what's important to you as an individual and as a business. When we look at your business, when we look at, how you handle your day-to-day events, when we look about how your habits are, how you get up in the morning, how you go to bed at night, what you eat, all these little things, as the guys were talking about, add up to create the total of self. In the end, if we're in sync, things seem to work well. When we're out of sync, we really seem to struggle. And in business, everything I talk about really is applicable to groups of people, not just individuals. So we're talking about the collective in a business sense as well as you as an individual. So living out of sync, I start with, what I'm talking about here is probably the most expensive and extensive problem of our age, they say, which is stress, inactivity, poor mental and physical fitness. So your ability to actually take care of business, your ability to govern yourself and look after yourself. Stress is associated with 9 in 10 mental disorders, which is huge. Chronic stress has proven to be more debilitating amongst those less physically fit and active. So there's a solution. Trouble is, we don't prioritize it. The trouble is we actually are so busy being a head on a stick, we forget about our body. We forget about all the small things that add up to create the capacity that allow us to use that great head of ours. We are so much more than just ideas and thoughts. I mean, it's really important to understand that if we're not feeling well, it could be because we're tired. It could be because we haven't eaten properly. It could be because we have pain or some sort of injury. Those issues then affect the way we think. That thinking effect is then going to cause us to be less than, I suppose, positive or less than powerful when it comes to making big decisions. So no matter how big, how well we present our business, at the end of the day, it comes down to sometimes the smallest thing. The Achilles heel can bring things down like a house of cards. At the moment, I'm being inundated with people struggling with this COVID situation. These people are normally, well, some of them are very successful people. Others have traditionally struggled, and this is just another struggle. But those who are really successful are also struggling because they often have forgotten about the small parts. They've forgotten about those bits and pieces that add up to create the capacity that helps give them the resilience that we need during these times. So the thing about stress is, which I deal with all the time, it's one of my most common conversations with people really, it's really a matter of perspective. If we think about it and we look at the stress continuum, okay, so we've got eustress, and distress. Now, eustress is really talking about that positive side of stress, that part that actually makes us feel excited, passionate. Yeah, it's the fulfilling part, the confidence-inspiring part. This is really part of the seed behind the creation of a business. And how many businesses are being created right now? Because people can't work, because people have to change, be opportunistic. There's so many people out there actually creating businesses, which is brilliant. Then you've got eustress, which is neutrality, which is inconsequential stress. It doesn't really mean anything good or bad. It's just, I suppose, maintenance. It's just a matter of doing. Then you've got distress, that negative excitement, that anxiety, that fear. Really, I call anxiety as stress without confidence. So when people come to me and talk to me about stress, I really try and work through this, I suppose, process of teaching them about stress. What is stress? Because stress is normal. In fact, stress is highly productive for us. Well-being hinges on our perspective, I've said here, our relationship with stress. So our perspective is this issue that we're facing. Is it really worth fearing? What is the opportunity that's being presented right now? As a business, it's never really good to react negatively. It's never really good to, I suppose, do yourself harm. It's always good to look for positive opportunity. It's always good to look for some way of at least maintaining, if not growing. And during this COVID time, there is an opportunity for you to start to address the small parts, the health of yourself, the communication between you and your team, making sure that all the small parts are actually taken care of that we often forget about because we're charging forwards at such a ferocious speed. Forging resilient well-being is a skill that can be taught. And this is really the foundation for I suppose, my professional existence really, is that I'm teaching people how to be well. We all have the capacity to self-govern, but sometimes we just forget. Sometimes we're so busy reaching forward, we don't take into account the fact that we've got to pull our body and pull our team and pull the small parts along with us. So when we talk about the business of self, what makes up us? Well, the first and most important thing I talk about is thoughts. We are the product of our thoughts. Yeah? The second is behaviours, what we actually do, how we translate those thoughts into action. The third thing I talk about is emotions. What those behaviours, those thoughts mean to us in a feeling capacity. Now, one of the big issues we've got is that most of us are encouraged to think about life through our emotions. We drive our processes with the outcome hoping to be happiness, hoping to be pleasance, It's all about emotion. And we use it as a driver, but you can't control the emotion. Emotion is basically symptomatic. So the whole idea is regulating thoughts, behaviors, and emotions to give us that sense of balance. If you can't think positive, doing something positive may actually help. Often we get stuck in a rut. We can't see a way of looking through a dilemma or a challenge. The best thing to do is to focus on doing something. Go for a run, have a stretch, check your posture, get a glass of water, have a chat with someone. That can sometimes turn the tide, help us create a space, an opportunity to change the way we're thinking, modify our perspective, and then get back onto the forward momentum that we missed. The emotions are things that happen as a consequence. Good emotions are pleasant. Obviously, it's good. Bad emotions, yeah, not so good. But we have to ride these, enjoying them when we can, putting up with them when we don't enjoy them. The point is, thoughts and behaviors drive the business. Emotions, remember all the time, are symptomatic, okay? They should never lead. In a conversation or a business decision, the emotions are a consequence. They're not the decision themselves. They don't make the decision. Flow is what I talk about a lot, right? The ability to have balance. Just the right amount of challenge to push us, that awareness, that sense of knowledge, the belief in ourselves, which gives us confidence, and the ability to apply, to act. This process I've called cognizance. I've got a foundation. I run an online program. I also do a lot of workshops with people, a lot face-to-face as well. And cognizance, really, I coined that name because it's about cognition and exercise. The whole point is it's really about doing. Yeah? When we look at health literacy, which is broken up into 4 domains, we look at nutritional health, we look at physical, mental, and social health. Any increase in health literacy gives us an increase in capacity. That increase in capacity helps us feel more confident as an individual and as a collective. When we're more confident, we invest more. Yeah, and this also applies to our market. When we invest more, it gives us a greater perceived value. Yeah, and therefore a greater sense of well-being. We are doing the right thing because value at the end of the day is our basic measure, a fundamental measure of success. So just remember that sequence. So an increase in health literacy, all those small parts, posture, tone, resilience through, cardio strength, the ability to sleep, nutrition. Those little things add up to give us a greater capacity, the capacity to take challenge, to deal with stress, to deal with negative emotions, leading to increased confidence, therefore an increased ability to invest and to attract investment, increased value, and therefore increased well-being. The big thing about the process of cognizance, the reason I use this, the reason I'm so devoted to this is because it really pushes this concept of purposeful living. Because life, after all, really is the balance of awareness and adjustment. We're aware of something, we modify ourselves to suit. Yeah? It's about thinking and doing. And really that is a business, the business of creating, thinking and supplying, doing. We are, as I said through these last 2 sessions before this, we are our own business. It's time to use both brains. And when I'm talking about both brains, I talk about the head brain, that part of us who has higher thought, that part of us who can analyze, philosophize, that part of us that can think deeply, but also use the body brain, that part of us linked to the central nervous system, which creates the feedback, which helps us feel empowered, helps us feel strong. It gives us that positive sense that gives us the confidence to keep forging ahead. We've got to keep remembering that well-being essentially is our wealth. At the end of the day, when everything is stripped away, how well we are is all that matters. And what that being well can mean to our community, to others. I have the privilege, sometimes stressful, but I have the privilege of spending time in palliative care with people. And every person in the last 32 years I've been practicing that I've spoken to are on their way out, talking about exit strategies, on their way out, always talk about that sense of legacy in the form of well-being they've left for others, that sense of connection. How much value have they passed on? It's not so much what did they mean to people as such. It's more about how did they help others, because they recognise that they're no longer going to exist, but others are. So our ability to influence, to seed change and growth, to help facilitate, empower and support others, that is our legacy. And like the guys were saying, Andrew said at the start, at the end of the day, if we are powerful, if our business is sorted, we have the greatest capacity to influence and support others, make a real difference. Anthony started this whole presentation tonight talking about monitoring and controlling, and that's what I'm talking about. Monitor and control yourself. Yeah? Andrew said a great thing, this 9 kicks in the ass, 1 lick of the ice cream. I never heard that before, but it's brilliant because that is life. A lot of the time it is effortful. A lot of the time it is difficult. A lot of the time the challenge is hard. But that lick of the ice cream is worth it. And when we can't think positive, we would have heard the old mother's statement, if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. Well, thinking is the same. If we can't think something positive, go into auto mode. Just do. Develop processes that are resilient enough, habits that are strong, well-formed enough to keep us moving forward even in the face of challenge. Because we aren't always going to be able to find a way to put a silver lining on things. At that stage, at that time, we just do. We do what we know we need to do. We stick to our processes and we make sure the job gets done. When things do brighten up, when things do come back, like COVID, when we do get back, we'll have already had momentum. We won't have lost too much. And we'll be able to hit the ground running. It's our daily choices that make the big difference. Andrew also talked about value adding, and so did Stefan. Value adding. When I get up in the morning, the way I stretch and do my morning ritual, that value adds. Then I have a good breakfast, that value adds. Then I make a few phone calls and I'm polite and I'm positive and I'm supportive, that value adds. So I avoid ever trying to make mistakes which I have to pay for later. And the stronger I am, the more balanced I am, the more I can make sure that happens. So just in finishing, Stefan sort of said at the end, he said, what is your why? And I'm saying to you that I believe our why, you have to think for yourself, I suppose, is capacity. I do this for capacity. I'm building a business for capacity. And that capacity is all around value. And the ultimate value is your ability to assist, to support, to share, to love others. Okay, so any questions, please make sure that you do put some in for us. Send it to our emails. I'm going to hand you back to Anthony, but we really do want to hear from you. And next week I'll continue from where I left off now. All the best. I'll just stop sharing. There you go, Anth. Up for you, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Judd. Fantastic. And we just a few questions from the floor there in our chat. And we'll start with one here. And Andrew, perhaps if you could have a look at this one. During the pandemic, many business owners have had to go back into being hands-on. How do you draw the divisions to ensure each person is responsible for their area without stepping on toes or micro managing?
Yeah, I would imagine we probably did that 5 or 6 times through different stages of our growth. And I actually find it a really healthy time. Sometimes it actually even saves your business. So I would see it as a really open, welcome time to get back in, get your hands dirty, so to speak. It's a bit like staying connected to the last 3 feet. I know that Anthony spent years, particularly in the last phases when he wasn't working necessarily in a salaried role within the business, but would actually fly around the country visiting sites, visiting staff members, congratulating them on their work, unannounced as well, would walk in with different times, celebrating some of our 5, 10, 15 and 20-year employees. One of the questions I got on my WhatsApp was, how does that sort of appreciation system go beyond just senior leader management? And it certainly did in our business, albeit on different levels, but there was appreciation shown down to the staff members that were casual in the field doing wonderful jobs. So it did vary depending, but I think it is care and respect for every person in the business. Probably more to answer that directly about micromanaging. I know that we all learn as business owners when we've gone too far. I've had examples myself. I know a lot of business colleagues that have had feedback to them about when they've got to let go and trust. I even saw different school principals at Caulfield Grammar School, for instance, managing in different ways. One very hands-on micromanaging, the other empowering and letting staff that are appointed to those positions do their job. I would say as a business owner, you've got to let go of the fear of making a mistake. Our very first example of that was at Geelong Grammar when we were the tennis coaches there, our very first service we ever offered, and we built that up to say 100 odd children. And we had to move away from being the tennis coach. That was our first empowering step of putting another coach in and seeing numbers fall away or not be coached how we were. It is quite empowering to make sure that you understand you can't micromanage. Every person's different, their personality. But where you can ensure in not allowing operational drift is that the business has a value system, a culture, and an output that we expect. And when there's variance there, it is up to the different management levels to ensure that either people are brought back on track or, as we had to on several occasions, people left the business. And we were unapologetic about that as we grew, because that's the point that the business would come undone. So I think personally, Anthony, and to the person who asked the question, never feel afraid of getting back into the work. In fact, it's sometimes energizing and empowering. Use your common sense as far as not stepping on toes, because you are empowering and you want to make sure that people feel good about what they're doing. So working alongside them, never above them, is probably my answer to that.
If I can add to that, Anthony and Andrew, is leadership provides an opportunity. Crisis provides an opportunity. It's an opportunity not to be missed. And if your business is at a level where you may need to, and in recent months we've seen this across the board, across all levels of business, the opportunity to step off the podium as the conductor and move into the seat that would be referred to as the first violinist is okay. To meddle in the drum kits and the flutes and the strings at the back end might not be okay. But in saying that, the key to leadership in crisis is the ability to get on the front line, be truthful, be honest, allow vulnerability, and ensure alignment and people's care as it relates to their health of mental health and ultimately their most. People go into survival mode. Your job as a leader is to ensure it's okay to go into survival, and there'll be a time for revival, and then there'll be a time for thriving. But right now, we're in this together, and this is the worst case that might happen, and we're in it together. We'll get through. So coming off the podium to being the first violinist is okay. Very okay.
Yep. Well answered, guys. And another one there to the panelists, probably Stefan. I'm interested in your thoughts about optimization methods. Can you comment on lean as a tool and its impact on customer experience?
Well, lean, yeah, that's a really good question. And again, depending on the stage of business you're at and the journey as it relates to leverage, lean is a byproduct of percentages. It's not a byproduct of money. It's a byproduct of what is the percentage of, let's say, operational costs or customer service levels as a cost to income. So therefore, the ability to be common sizing expenses as a percentage to income also ensures that service should never, ever be decreased or, I guess, corners being cut. ultimately it's your customer service levels that ultimately build your reputation for building repeat and referral. So your opportunity to drive value up and maintain lean as a percentage to revenue is your opportunity to be growing something that you are not working harder. You're actually working with a plan as to how do you drive more value that doesn't cost you more dollars, and it's increasing EBITDA or gross profit margin, which is the two important drivers for that. So drive OPEX as a percentage down as it relates to income, drive COGS down as a percentage to income. You got two levers. One is price, which is a direct cousin and or mother of a thing called value. And you got a second driver called volume. You've got to understand the capacity of your business and what is unfulfilled, or where is the juice not being squeezed, and maybe there's bright shiny ball syndrome going on. So lean is a byproduct of percentages.
Yep. And one from Mark Harwood. Thanks for this, Mark. Andrew, if you could have a look at this one. I listened to a podcast yesterday with Reed Hastings, CEO of Netflix. He's written a book, No Rules. Was very interested in the dynamic he spoke of between transitioning from startup to rapid growth and establishing processes and policies, but not hindering innovation. Would love any insights on getting the balance right.
Yeah, I think if I could talk to that very first slide I put up today, is that just our experience of it is what we were dealing with, or our business with kids. So we expanded in sort of 4 or 5 different things. We had sports coaching, sports camps, events, birthday parties. We were doing sort of 5 or 6 different products. And it was part of a complementary thing that we would offer one and a family would take up another service. And so it was very scattergun. We quickly realised when childcare sprung out of that was the one that was profitable. So what we did was we scaled down offering these unprofitable other services and focused on the one service that was making, for those who missed the first couple of sessions, it was sort of 80% of our profit was coming from 20% of our effort. And so we removed all of those other noises, if you like, of different services and focused on the one. And then today we talked about then within that one service, how do you become even more profitable? Watching your costs and your margins and building operational efficiency. I guess the question he's asking is, how innovative can you continue to be? And it was like bringing great minds in. Our IT business manager, Andrew Conley, and our CEO, all different people who brought great ideas to the business to expand. But I think we left it such that the people, call it again, the last 3 feet, we always gave them total right to run the services as they wished. So the famous saying by Andrew was, we're going to remove everything that a human being doesn't have to do and replace it with IT. And we're going to leave only the things that humans can do. And I can tell you what, that builds efficiencies. I know it's somewhat a bit harsh on us humans, but it was certainly for us about making sure we still had the flair right at the last 3 feet for the kids to have fun doing what they're doing, continuing to innovate. Anthony and Liz were the main drivers of our operational programs and making sure we're up to speed with what kids of today and then the different decades that we were up with. I mean, for us in the 70s, it was riding a bike and climbing a tree. In the mid 2000s, it was completely different. So continuing to innovate. And as our chairman used to say, you only get sort of 7 years really in a business cycle. You've got to embrace change and innovate. And so I think hopefully that answers that ability to open your eyes, see what's going on out there, but you can't move away from ensuring operational systems that allow that profitability to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you've got to be, as we all know, you've got to be looking at the marketplace, looking at the world changing, society trends. So I think you've always got to be innovative too. So you always got to have those. I know we had buckets of things open, always ideas, and the thing called childcare just rose and bubbled out the top. And so, I think that's a really good point around that and keeping the innovation going. It keeps everyone excited about business as well. Thanks.
Can I just comment on that just for a second? That's a sign of business health as well. The ability to be innovative, the ability to be reactive, the ability to listen, the ability to notice, the ability to pull back when you don't need to be pushing. I mean, that ability to balance yourself and the business and your role in the business is really important. And that's where you get healthy relationships and communications. That encourages other people to invest more, and then your business grows, not just through you, but through a multi-person approach. So, yeah.
Good one. And Phil, yeah, well, I think Andrew sort of answered your question a little bit there, Phil. But yeah, look, we did go through 5 or 6 CEOs, and I think some, there are anything from, people that had MBAs that were a bit gung-ho or didn't understand the full culture or the full product or what we did. Some were just less competent than we expected from their level of experience. Some might have been a bit older and, we just had some old methods that sort of weren't applicable to what we had. I suppose in the end, the golden CEO was the one who changed the system. So he allowed what the topic is today to build capacity. He got into every single area, had a good general knowledge in marketing, sales, HR, operations, finance. He went in everywhere with a fine tooth comb and really, on Andrew's and my behalf, really improved the systemization and got rid of the muda, he used to call it, the waste, anything that was waste, and really leaned up, as Stefan was talking about before, leaned up our business, because we were pretty generous, Andrew and I, for a lot of the time. And as our dad said, we used to catch a lot in the sieve, but let it go through the holes. Well, he did tighten that up and became a very effective, as Stefan's saying, wealth creator, because the profit margins just improved out of sight because of what he did there.
I remember in conclusion, after that, I remember inviting Adam Peace, who was the CEO who drove our business to great success, was over for dinner one night. My wife had seen about a decade of 4 or 5 before him, and she just posed the question to her, so how are you, what's the difference? How are you going to do it? He just said, you just watch me. That's all he said. And it was such great confidence, but there was no hubris, there was no arrogance. It was just an absolute knowing, and with 4 or 5 others that, by the way, assisted that massive growth. Can I just conclude one thing from which the boys tapped in on a little bit today, which I'm going to talk a bit about next week, is your own personal consciousness and enlightened state. I know that I didn't get it right, talking about overreaching at senior management level or with different personnel. I think if you can start growing yourself now, the personal side of you. As an example, one person said to me once when I asked for feedback, you talk too much. And as sales, you always think, oh, geez, it's all about my voice. And my brother used to say to me, do you know you interrupt and you talk over? That's just a little personal learning for me that I've taken in the last 15 years to think every time, and so I do think we're on a personal journey, and the quicker the entrepreneur, business owner can actually get out of the way of himself or herself and just ensure they encourage others' voices, I think the better the lift of the business will be.
I mean, in fairness, Andrew, there's so many businesses where, the owner is going straight to the customer and leaving the team on the side to just watch how I do it. And if that goes on for too long, all you're doing is you're impacting the ultimate success of the machine. What is the machine that you are building? People plus process equals leverage. Leverage with optics and scoreboards equals a journey never, ever imagined in business and in life.
And that's exactly what I did. I was probably like the CEO for the first 18 years, very informal sort of years. And I think, like Judd was saying, I went straight down the line there, Stefan, and copped the stress and the total physical, mental exhaustion. And, because I just could not delegate. And I know at that point I came back and appointed managers that I trained up, like Andrew said, to really, carry on their expertise, trust them and let them do their job, let them make some mistakes, learn and grow. And
the beautiful thing about this framework is if you train the team, but also indirectly you're training the customers, you're buying your freedom. Now, you've got to be able to know what you're doing with the hours that now are available to you. And some of us are so used to working 70-hour weeks, it blows our brain to think, shit, how many games of golf can I play with 80-year-olds who have got prostate cancer? You know what I mean? It sort of does your brain. I mean, I had a client that literally, he sold his business for a 6 multiple a year ago, and we're talking millions of dollars, and then he thought he'd retire at the age of 52. Well, a year later, he went and bought a business because he goes, mate, I'm going stir crazy, because his life goal, his life plan was not really clear. He just didn't have it. So all he had was workaholic, work hard. And, you know, that's okay until such time it's not okay. So I love what you guys are doing, Andrew and Anthony, as it relates to life after the productive years.
And I think that's it, Stefan. Yeah, we all, you know, I think anyone with entrepreneurial thoughts or management aspirations and business expertise, we drive hard, but at the end of the day, you're always asking back to the why are you doing it? And at the end of the day, you know, what Judd's saying is really, you know, so important, that invest in yourself. If we had our time again, do a lot more to get yourself physically, mentally, socially, community-wise involved earlier in your business career, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to community. And a very good person said that to me, someone from Reclink, where I sat on the board for a number of years. He said, you know, if young sports people could go and volunteer and be part of community, it's funny when you have that elite sporting career, we all then come back into a community and some can't adjust. And I thought it was just brilliant. And I think in business too, I always used to love when people said, you know, what do you work at? Even though you're working hard and it's quite stressful, I always loved the end product, which for us were kids and the development of kids and building potential. So I think building potential, building capacity, it's been a great theme today. Some of Andrew's great points there. I remember the cash one about direct debit and making sure we collect our money and having mechanisms to get that right was crucial. The wages were always massive, and they are today, and just making sure that wage to revenue's understood. We did look after and pay well our senior people that were really performers. They just performed, and you pay for performance in anything. You look at the top players, wide to go, he gets the big dollars at Collingwood. Look like what he can do. He can change the course of games, and you know, that's what you pay for. Sustainable and scalable. You know, just absolute focus words for Andrew and I. Stefan was great, the three-legged stool, and on the increasing wealth, the OPT, the OPM, and the OPN. So, yeah, definitely love that. The time, money, and networks, great takeaways there. I love the plan and always measure. Anything you can measure, you can improve. And our good mate Craig Abbott's great with his fitness, and, you know, he's got a few of us on at the moment doing some of the fit dads that, you know, maybe on this call, that, you know, if you measure it, you can actually see your improvement and you can actually feel yourself get fitter and stronger and better. So it's a great one. And I just love, that continuum just from Judd there on stress and understanding it, knowing it, and really the business of self. You know, I love that sort of just thinking and approach like that you'll actually get yourself in a great flow, as he said, and balance. To really invest and take time to get yourself right, which will lead to, you know, increased performance capacity of you and then everyone around you. You know, that purposeful living then takes place, and we all have lots of smiles on our faces when that happens. So thanks again, Judd, for rounding that up. Stefan, great insights again with your business mechanics. Andrew, love recalling a lot of the stories of building a really successful business. So again, guys, thanks to Rob behind the scenes. Nikki, thanks for all your help. Look forward to next week. We'll get the program out, and have a great rest of the week. See you later.
Well done, guys.